What if I told you that every millionaire walking this earth today didn't become wealthy through luck, inheritance, or even ruthless business tactics, but through something far more powerful, something you've been doing every single day of your life without realizing its incredible potential? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Here's a truth that will shake everything you've been taught about money. Millionaires are not born, they are spoken into being. Right now, as you're watching this, there are people around the globe who have discovered the secret that transforms ordinary words into extraordinary wealth. They've learned what Florence Scovel Shinn revealed over a century ago, that your word is your wand, and with it, you hold the power to command prosperity itself. Has this ever happened to you? You've worked tirelessly, followed every financial guru's advice, saved diligently, networked endlessly, yet somehow wealth continues to slip through your fingers like water? You've wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract money while others, perhaps more deserving, struggle paycheck to paycheck? The answer isn't found in the stock market, real estate investments, or even business strategies. It lies in something far more fundamental, the very words that flow from your lips each day. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because it goes against everything our materialistic world has taught us about creating wealth. While society tells us that money comes through competition, struggle, and relentless effort, spiritual law reveals a completely different truth. Every wealthy person, whether they realize it or not, has declared their abundance into existence through the creative power of spoken words. Think about it. How many times have you caught yourself saying things like, "I can't afford this, money is tight," or "I'm always broke"? These aren't just casual expressions. They're powerful decrees that the universe takes as commands. When you speak of lack, lack answers. When you voice struggle, struggle delivers. When you declare limitation, limitation becomes your reality. Florence Scovel Shinn understood this profound principle when she taught that your word literally shapes your world. This isn't positive thinking or wishful hoping. This is spiritual law as exact and unchanging as gravity itself. When you align your speech with divine abundance, money ceases to be something you chase and compete for. Instead, it becomes a natural result of your spiritual alignment, drawn to you through the magnetic power of faith-filled declarations. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share with you is the actual sentence, the specific words that have transformed countless lives from poverty to prosperity, from financial struggle to overflowing abundance. This isn't theory or motivation. This is the practical application of spiritual law that works whether you fully understand it or not. The millionaires of this world have discovered, either consciously or unconsciously, that wealth responds to authority, not desperation. They speak as commanders of their financial destiny, not beggars hoping for scraps. And now, you're about to learn exactly how they do it. Hit that subscribe button if you value depth over surface-level advice. Let's continue this journey together, diving deeper into the spiritual principles that create lasting abundance. The transformation begins the moment you understand this hidden truth about how the wealthy actually operate. They don't chase money like most people do, frantically pursuing opportunities with desperation in their voices. Instead, they command prosperity through something far more powerful, authoritative speech that carries the weight of absolute certainty. Picture this: when a true millionaire speaks about money, there's no pleading, no hoping, no anxious energy. Their words carry a different frequency entirely. They speak as rulers of their financial reality, not servants begging for scraps. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment with a spiritual law that most people never discover. Money becomes drawn to their declarations like iron to a magnet, responding to the authority in their voice rather than the desperation so many others project. Now, I want to go even deeper into this revelation, because what I'm about to share will completely shift your understanding of why your current financial situation exists exactly as it is. Your speech patterns right now, in this very moment, are creating your tomorrow's bank account. Every casual conversation about money, every offhand comment about your finances, every joke about being broke, These aren't harmless words disappearing into thin air. They're powerful commands that the universe takes quite literally. The universe operates like the most sophisticated recording device imaginable, capturing every vibration of your voice and faithfully reproducing those declarations in your experience. When you consistently speak of lack, the invisible forces around you interpret this as an order to deliver more lack. When you voice fear about your financial future, fear becomes the architect of your circumstances. When you declare struggle as your norm, struggle obeys with mathematical precision. This is why your results haven't changed despite all your efforts, despite reading countless books, attending seminars, and trying every strategy under the sun. The fundamental issue isn't your actions. It's the unconscious decisions you make every time you open your mouth to speak about money. Your current financial reality is simply the mirror reflection of your dominant speech patterns, played back to you with stunning accuracy. Behind the scenes of every financial breakthrough lies this simple but profound shift, changing what flows from your lips about prosperity. The wealthy have discovered, often without realizing it, that their tongue holds more power than any business plan, investment strategy, or networking connection ever could. They've stumbled upon the secret that words don't just describe reality, they create it. Most people live their entire lives without understanding this connection between their daily conversations and their bank account balance. They wonder why opportunities seem to pass them by, why money feels so elusive, why financial stress follows them like a shadow. The answer has been hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered in the very words they speak each day. Write in the comments, "My words create my wealth," if this revelation is opening your eyes to a completely new understanding of how prosperity actually works. This revelation leads us to something even more profound, a discovery that completely transforms how we understand the relationship between our inner world and outer circumstances. Florence Scovel Shinn uncovered what she called a divine decree, a spiritually charged sentence so powerful that when spoken with unwavering faith, it literally unlocks what she described as heaven's storehouse of abundance. The wealthy have intuitively grasped this hidden truth. Wealth must first exist as an inner decree before it can manifest as an outer demonstration. They understand that prosperity isn't something you go out and find. It's something you declare into existence from within, then watch as reality reshapes itself to match your declaration. This isn't wishful thinking or mere positive affirmations. This is accessing a fundamental law that governs how abundance flows into human experience. Behind the scenes of every financial transformation lies this understanding of spiritual law. Ancient scripture reveals that death and life are in the power of the tongue, but most people miss the profound implications of this statement. Your words don't just express your thoughts. They hold the keys to every vault, every opportunity, every channel of prosperity you could ever need. They either swing open the gates of abundance or keep them firmly barred. This isn't superstition or religious rhetoric. This is spiritual law operating with the same precision as gravity or magnetism. When you speak, you're not just moving air molecules. You're activating invisible forces that immediately begin rearranging circumstances to align with your declarations. The universe doesn't distinguish between casual conversation and intentional decree. It responds to whatever you consistently voice with the same unwavering obedience. The impact of understanding this principle cannot be overstated. Every wealthy individual, whether they realize it or not, has learned to wield their tongue as an instrument of creation rather than destruction. They've discovered that their voice carries creative power, and they've made the conscious decision to use that power to command prosperity rather than complain about its absence. This journey of awakening to your own creative authority through speech marks the turning point between financial struggle and financial freedom. Most people unknowingly use their words to reinforce limitation, speaking themselves deeper into lack with every conversation. But those who grasp this spiritual principle begin using their voice as a tool of liberation, speaking themselves into the very abundance they desire. Now, I want to reveal the actual sentence itself, the specific words that carry this divine authority. Because once you understand not just the principle, but the precise declaration that activates it, everything changes. The transformation happens not through struggle or complex strategies, but through aligning your speech with spiritual law. Write in the comments, "I choose my words carefully," if you're beginning to see how your daily conversations have been shaping your financial reality more than you ever imagined. The sentence I'm about to share with you represents something far more powerful than any temporary motivational strategy or worldly financial tactic you've ever encountered. This isn't another get-rich-quick scheme or complicated investment formula. What Florence Scovel Shinn discovered was a spiritual blueprint that has literally transformed beggars into millionaires, not through years of grinding and striving, but through a fundamental shift in consciousness that can happen in an instant. Here's what makes this revelation so extraordinary. The transformation doesn't require you to change your circumstances first. You don't need to wait until you have more education, better connections, or favorable market conditions. The shift happens the moment you transition from lack consciousness to divine command, from speaking as someone who hopes to have wealth to speaking as someone who already possesses it. The sentence itself carries a frequency that resonates with abundance at the deepest level. When Florence Scovel Shinn taught this to those who came to her in desperation, she witnessed miracle after miracle. People who had lost everything, who were facing bankruptcy and financial ruin, began speaking these words with conviction, and their entire reality restructured itself around this new declaration: "I am rich, I am supplied, and my prosperity is unshakable." These aren't just words. They're a royal decree that creates millionaires not through chance or bloodline, but through a voice that dares to speak what divine law has already established as truth. The impact of this simple sentence lies not in its complexity, but in its absolute authority. When you speak these words with genuine conviction, you're not hoping to become prosperous. You're declaring that you already are. Hit the like button if you can feel something shifting in your consciousness about wealth. When you like this video, you're affirming your commitment to the millionaire mindset we've built together. Behind the scenes of this transformation is a profound understanding that your current identity determines your financial reality. Most people speak from their present circumstances, reinforcing exactly what they're trying to escape. But this sentence demands that you speak from your divine inheritance, commanding your circumstances to align with a higher truth about who you really are. The journey from financial struggle to abundance begins the moment you make the decision to change not what you do, but how you identify yourself in relationship to money. This isn't about pretending or living in denial. It's about recognizing a spiritual truth that supersedes physical appearances and speaking from that reality with unwavering conviction. The revelations continue to unfold as you begin to understand that this sentence works because it aligns your speech with divine law rather than human limitation. Every time you declare, "I am rich, I am supplied, and my prosperity is unshakable," you're issuing a command to the very forces that govern abundance in the universe. Write in the comments, "I am rich and supplied," if you feel the power of these words resonating within you, and you're ready to begin speaking from a place of divine authority rather than human lack. What draws most people to seek this deeper understanding of wealth isn't academic curiosity or casual interest. It's the deep, aching exhaustion that comes from trying absolutely everything the world has told you about making money, yet still watching it slip through your fingers like water you simply cannot hold. There's a profound weariness that settles into your bones when you've attended every seminar, read every book, followed every guru's advice, and still find yourself in the same financial predicament month after month. This journey of seeking often begins in a place of quiet desperation, where the gap between your dreams and your bank account feels insurmountable. You've hustled harder than anyone around you, sacrificed time with family, worked extra hours until exhaustion became your constant companion, yet somehow the breakthrough remains elusive. The impact of this relentless cycle creates a unique kind of heartbreak, the kind that comes from giving everything you have and still feeling like you're failing. Behind the scenes of this struggle lies something even more painful than the numbers on your bank statement. It's the heavy weight of unpaid bills that steal your peace in quiet moments, the mounting debt that whispers accusations in your mind, the quiet shame that creeps in when you realize you're counting costs before you allow yourself to dream. You find yourself calculating whether you can afford simple pleasures that others take for granted, measuring every desire against the harsh reality of your financial limitations. The transformation many people desperately seek isn't just about having more money. It's about escaping the prison of constantly having to choose between your needs and your wants, between practical necessities and the beautiful things that make life feel worth living. You've learned to hide your desires for comfort, for travel, for the freedom to say yes without mentally calculating the consequences. Because somewhere along the way, society convinced you that wanting beautiful things makes you greedy or foolish. This internal conflict creates a mindset where you feel guilty for even dreaming of abundance, as if your current circumstances are somehow a moral judgment on your worthiness. The hidden truth is that this shame becomes another barrier between you and the prosperity you deserve. Another voice telling you to stay small, to be grateful for scraps, to accept limitation as your permanent address. The revelations about wealth creation through spiritual law become so powerful precisely because they address this deeper wound. Not just the lack of money, but the lack of permission you've given yourself to receive abundance without guilt, without apology, without the constant fear that it might disappear as quickly as it came. Now, I want to show you how this very pain, this exhaustion from trying everything else, actually becomes the fertile ground where the most profound financial transformations take root. Write in the comments, "I'm ready for a different way," if you recognize this struggle in your own journey and you're prepared to explore something completely different from everything you've tried before. It's precisely within this place of exhaustion and repeated disappointment that something extraordinary reveals itself. A sacred ember deep within your spirit that absolutely refuses to be extinguished, no matter how many times you've faced financial setbacks or how loud the voices of doubt have grown. You've felt it, haven't you? That persistent knowing that life is meant to overflow with good, that somehow, in ways you can't fully explain, you weren't created to live beneath what feels like your true inheritance. This isn't naive optimism or wishful thinking that keeps this flame alive. It's something far more profound, an inner recognition that the struggle you've been experiencing isn't your natural state, but a temporary condition that contradicts who you really are at the deepest level. Even when logic screams that you should give up, when evidence suggests you're destined for financial mediocrity, this sacred ember whispers a different truth entirely. The transformation begins when you realize that this persistent whisper for abundance isn't fantasy or delusion. It's actually the voice of infinite spirit calling you to remember your true identity. This recognition changes everything because it shifts you from seeing yourself as someone scrambling for crumbs in a world of scarcity to understanding that you are, by divine design, an heir to the limitless supply of the universe itself. Behind the scenes of every major breakthrough lies this fundamental shift in identity. The wealthy don't think of themselves as lucky recipients of abundance. They operate from an inner knowing that prosperity is their birthright. They've connected with this sacred ember within themselves and allowed it to grow into an unshakable conviction that shapes every decision they make and every word they speak. This journey from financial struggle to prosperity isn't really about learning new techniques or strategies. It's about remembering who you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning that convinced you to accept limitation as normal. The impact of this remembering goes far beyond your bank account. It touches every area of your life because you begin operating from a completely different foundation of self-understanding. Your current circumstances become less important than your divine identity. The bills, the debt, the financial pressure, all of these become temporary experiences rather than permanent definitions of who you are. When you truly grasp that you're a divine heir, not a pauper begging for blessing, your entire relationship with money transforms because you're no longer speaking from lack, but from limitless inheritance. Now, I want to show you exactly how this shift in identity translates into practical changes in your daily speech patterns. Because understanding your divine inheritance is only the beginning. Speaking from that place of authority is where the real magic happens. Write in the comments, "I remember who I am," if you can feel this sacred ember stirring within you, and you're ready to step into your true identity as an heir to infinite abundance. When you understand your true identity as a divine heir, everything about your financial struggle suddenly makes perfect sense. Your current circumstances aren't evidence of divine neglect or proof that you're somehow unworthy of abundance. Instead, they're simply the natural result of words that have been misaligned with your spiritual authority for far too long. Your tongue has been unconsciously working against your own prosperity, silencing the very power you were born to command. Think about this revelation carefully. Every time you've said, "I can't afford it," every casual comment about being broke, every joke about your financial situation has been a command to the universe that's been faithfully fulfilled. Your words haven't been reflecting your divine inheritance. They've been contradicting it. The impact of this misalignment is profound because spiritual law doesn't distinguish between what you say seriously and what you say casually. It responds to the consistent pattern of your speech with mathematical precision. The hidden truth that transforms everything is understanding that your financial struggle has never been about external circumstances or bad luck. It's been about the unconscious decisions you've made with your words, speaking from your temporary conditions rather than your eternal identity. Behind the scenes, every declaration of limitation has been reinforcing the very reality you're trying to escape. But here's where the transformation becomes even more powerful. That restless longing you feel for financial freedom, that deep yearning to live without the constant weight of financial pressure, isn't something you should feel guilty about or suppress. Your desire for abundance is actually holy dissatisfaction with a life that's become too small for your soul. This isn't greed or materialism. It's your spirit recognizing that you're meant for so much more than barely getting by. If these spiritual wealth principles resonated with you, subscribe to the channel. We're just getting started exploring how divine law creates prosperity, and I want you here for every insight that could transform your financial reality. The journey toward prosperity begins when you realize that this yearning is actually a sacred signal that you're ready to align your words with your true nature. That restlessness you feel when you can't afford the things that would bring you joy, when you have to constantly calculate costs before making decisions, when you watch others live freely while you feel trapped. This isn't selfishness. It's your divine nature calling you back to your rightful inheritance. This mindset shift changes everything because it gives you permission to want more without shame, to desire freedom without apology, to seek abundance without feeling like you're somehow being ungrateful for what you have. When you understand that your longing for financial freedom is actually your spirit's way of preparing you to speak differently, to declare your inheritance with authority rather than hope for it with timidity. Now, I want to show you exactly how to channel this holy dissatisfaction into the specific words that will realign your speech with your spiritual authority and begin commanding the wealth that's already yours by divine right. Write in the comments, "My desires are holy," if you're ready to release any guilt about wanting financial freedom and embrace your yearning for abundance as a sacred calling to step into your true inheritance. The pivotal moment in your financial transformation arrives when you make a fundamental decision to stop chasing wealth and start decreeing it. This shift represents far more than a change in strategy. It's a complete reversal of your relationship with abundance. Instead of pursuing money from a place of desperate need, you begin commanding it from a position of spiritual authority. The impact of this transition cannot be overstated because it moves you from the energy of lack, which repels prosperity, to the frequency of dominion, which magnetizes it. Behind the scenes of this transformation lies a profound understanding that Florence Scovel Shinn revealed. Your word literally links you with omnipotence itself. When you speak with genuine authority, you're not just making sounds or expressing hopes. You're connecting directly with the divine power that created everything you see around you. This isn't metaphorical language. It's a description of how spiritual law actually operates in the unseen realm. The hidden truth that changes everything is recognizing that wealth doesn't originate in physical labor, clever strategies, or even hard work. While these things may be channels through which abundance flows, the source itself is found in spoken commands that align perfectly with spiritual law. When you understand this principle, you shift from being a beggar hoping for blessing to becoming a creator, wielding the same creative force that spoke the universe into existence. This journey from desperation to declaration marks the exact moment when the tide begins turning in your favor. The universe responds not to your need, but to your authority. It doesn't answer desperate prayers as quickly as it responds to confident commands. When you stop asking, "How can I get money?" and start declaring, "Money flows to me naturally and abundantly," you've crossed the threshold from human effort into divine assistance. The revelations continue to unfold as you realize that every word you speak carries this same creative potential. Your voice isn't separate from the force that moves galaxies and orchestrates the perfect timing of seasons. It's an expression of that same omnipotent power focused through your individual consciousness. This understanding transforms your daily speech from casual conversation into conscious creation. The mindset shift required here demands that you release the old paradigm of struggle and embrace a new reality where your word holds absolute authority over your financial circumstances. This isn't about working harder or finding better opportunities. It's about speaking with the certainty of someone who knows that divine law must respond to properly aligned declarations. Now, I want to show you the exact words that carry this authority, the specific declarations that align your speech with spiritual law and activate the divine assistance that's been waiting for your command. Write in the comments, "I decree my abundance," if you're ready to stop chasing prosperity and start commanding it through the divine authority that flows through your spoken word. The specific declarations that carry divine authority work because of a fundamental principle about how your mind operates that most people never discover. Every single word you speak functions like a seed planted in the eternally fertile soil of your subconscious mind. This mental soil doesn't question the wisdom of what you're planting, doesn't reason about whether your words make logical sense, and doesn't judge whether you deserve what you're declaring. It simply produces, with absolute precision, exactly what has been consistently planted through your speech patterns. Understanding this hidden truth about your subconscious mind transforms everything because it reveals why your financial results have remained stuck despite your best efforts. Behind the scenes, your casual conversations about money have been planting seeds of limitation that your subconscious has been faithfully cultivating into experiences of lack. Every time you've joked about being broke, complained about bills, or expressed fear about your financial future, you've been sowing seeds that must, by law, produce a harvest that matches their nature. The impact of this revelation is profound because it shows you that the transformation you're seeking doesn't require changing your circumstances first. It requires changing what you're planting in the soil of your mind through your daily speech. Fear-based words create barren financial landscapes where opportunities wither before they can take root. When you consistently speak from anxiety about money, from worry about the future, from doubt about your ability to prosper, you're literally cultivating a mental environment where abundance cannot flourish. If you felt the power behind these words, show me by hitting that like button. It tells me you're serious about applying these principles and helps this message reach others who need it. But here's where the journey takes a dramatic turn. Words of divine command carry a completely different creative frequency. When you speak with spiritual authority, declaring your inheritance rather than your limitations, you're planting seeds that must produce rivers of supply. The law that governs this process responds with complete impartiality to whatever you consistently speak, which means faith-filled speech becomes absolutely essential for sustainable prosperity. This mindset shift requires you to become conscious of every seed you're planting through your words. The decisions you make about what to speak in casual moments become just as important as formal declarations because your subconscious doesn't distinguish between serious affirmations and offhand comments. It's all being recorded, processed, and manifested with the same unwavering consistency. The revelations continue to unfold as you realize that wealthy people, whether they understand this principle consciously or not, naturally tend to speak words that plant seeds of abundance in their mental soil. They talk about opportunities, express confidence about their financial future, and casually mention their prosperity in ways that continuously reinforce their abundant reality. Now, I want to show you exactly how to cleanse your mental soil of the fear-based seeds that have been creating financial barrenness and replace them with the specific declarations that plant only abundance in your subconscious mind. Write in the comments, "I plant seeds of abundance," if you're ready to become conscious of every word you speak and transform your subconscious mind into a garden that produces only prosperity. The transformation from planting seeds of abundance in your subconscious mind leads us to an even more profound revelation about how spiritual law operates in the unseen realm. Ancient scripture provides the exact blueprint for this process in Job 22:28, which declares, "Thou shalt also decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee." Notice the precise language here. It doesn't say you shall wish for something or hope for it in the privacy of your thoughts. It specifically states that you must decree it, speak it with absolute authority, causing universal forces to respond and establish what you've declared. This isn't religious poetry or metaphorical language. It's a description of how the invisible realm actually functions. Behind the scenes of physical reality operates a sophisticated system where your spoken words carry vibrations that travel far beyond the range of human hearing. Just as air molecules faithfully carry every sound vibration from your voice to another person's ears, the unseen realm carries the spiritual vibrations of your declarations into what Florence Scovel Shinn called divine law, where they immediately begin the process of shaping invisible substance into visible form. The impact of understanding this hidden mechanism cannot be overstated because it reveals that you're not speaking into empty space when you make declarations about your financial future. Every word carries a frequency that penetrates dimensions beyond physical perception, reaching realms where thoughts become things and declarations become demonstrations. Your voice becomes a bridge between the invisible and the visible, between spiritual law and material manifestation. This journey of discovery shows you that the wealthy have intuitively learned to use their voice as an instrument of creation rather than merely communication. When they speak about money, opportunities, or their financial future, they're not just sharing information, they're issuing commands to the very forces that arrange circumstances, orchestrate meetings, and open doors that seemed permanently closed. The mindset shift required here moves you from seeing speech as casual conversation to recognizing it as conscious creation. Every declaration about abundance sends vibrations into spiritual law that must, by divine design, begin materializing what you've spoken. The decisions you make about how to use this creative power determine whether you're continuously reinforcing limitation or constantly commanding prosperity. The revelations deepen as you realize that this process happens whether you believe in it or not, whether you understand it or not. Spiritual law responds to your words with the same consistency that gravity responds to objects. The only question is whether you'll use this creative authority consciously and deliberately, or allow it to operate unconsciously based on habitual speech patterns. Now, I want to show you exactly how to harness this invisible mechanism, how to speak in a way that sends the most powerful vibrations into spiritual law and accelerates the manifestation of abundance in your physical experience. Write in the comments, "My words create reality," if you're beginning to grasp the profound responsibility and power that comes with understanding how your spoken declarations shape the invisible forces that govern your financial circumstances. Understanding how your words travel through the invisible realm brings us to a crucial distinction that separates those who successfully manifest wealth from those who struggle despite their best efforts. Effective declarations aren't timid affirmations whispered with uncertainty or desperate pleas spoken from a place of need. They are commands issued with the confidence of someone who knows they are a royal heir to infinite riches, speaking with the unwavering voice of spiritual dominion and divine authority. The transformation happens when you realize that wealth doesn't respond to desperation, no matter how sincere or heartfelt that desperation might be. Abundance is drawn to authority, to the frequency of certainty, to declarations that carry the vibration of absolute knowing rather than hopeful wishing. When you speak from this place of spiritual authority, You're not asking the universe for permission to be wealthy. You're informing it of your divine inheritance and commanding it to align with that truth. Behind the scenes of this process operates what Florence Scovel Shinn understood as a universal ecosystem. Wealth functions exactly like sound bouncing off the walls of a vast hall. When you speak words of lack, limitation, and struggle, the universe faithfully returns more lack, limitation, and struggle. But when you declare abundance with true authority, that same echo mechanism returns carrying opportunities, connections, and channels of provision that extend far beyond anything your human mind could calculate or arrange. This journey of discovery reveals that the universe isn't selective about whose commands it follows. It responds with equal precision to everyone who speaks with genuine authority. The impact of this revelation is profound because it means your financial circumstances aren't determined by external factors, market conditions, or economic trends. They're shaped by the consistent echo pattern you've been creating through your speech, whether you've been aware of it or not. The mindset shift required here moves you from speaking as someone who hopes to have wealth to speaking as someone who already possesses it. This isn't about pretending or living in denial. It's about aligning your speech with your spiritual identity rather than your temporary circumstances. When you speak from your divine inheritance instead of your current bank balance, you send completely different vibrations into the universal ecosystem. The hidden truth that changes everything is recognizing that this echo doesn't just return abstract energy. It returns tangible opportunities, unexpected income, divine connections, and inspired ideas that lead directly to increased prosperity. The decisions you make about how to speak today literally determine what echoes back to you tomorrow, next week, and next month. Now, I want to demonstrate exactly how this ecosystem works in practice by showing you the specific phrases that create the most powerful abundance echoes and the precise way to speak them so they carry maximum spiritual authority. Write in the comments, "I speak with authority," if you're ready to stop pleading with the universe for wealth and start commanding it as your divine birthright. When you begin speaking with this level of spiritual authority, a profound revelation emerges that completely transforms your entire approach to wealth creation. You discover that you're not actually pursuing wealth at all. Wealth is pursuing you, constantly moving in your direction, waiting only for clear decrees from your tongue to unlock the gates of divine supply that have been prepared for you since before you were born. This understanding completely reverses the traditional pursuit mentality that keeps most people trapped in cycles of chasing and striving. The transformation that occurs when you grasp this truth is nothing short of revolutionary. Instead of positioning yourself as someone desperately seeking abundance, you begin operating as the one in command, the one who holds the keys to release what's already yours. Behind the scenes of this shift lies a fundamental change in the power dynamic between you and prosperity. You stop being the supplicant and become the sovereign, issuing commands rather than making requests. This journey into divine authority becomes even more powerful when you understand that wealth isn't a rare blessing reserved for a chosen few, but actually represents God's covenant with all of humanity. Scripture makes this abundantly clear in Deuteronomy 8:18, which declares that God gives power to get wealth specifically to establish His covenant. This isn't about luck, favoritism, or special selection. It's about divine inheritance that belongs to you by birthright. The impact of understanding wealth as covenant rather than competition changes everything because it removes the element of uncertainty from your declarations. You're not hoping God might bless you with prosperity. You're claiming what has already been promised through divine covenant. The decisions you make about how to speak from this place of covenant authority carry exponentially more power than words spoken from hope or need. The hidden truth that emerges here is that every time you felt guilty about wanting financial freedom, every moment you've wondered if you're being greedy for desiring abundance, you've been believing a lie that contradicts Scripture itself. Your longing for prosperity isn't selfish. It's your spirit recognizing what God has already established as your inheritance through divine covenant. This mindset shift moves you from asking permission to be wealthy to understanding that permission has already been granted through the highest authority in the universe. When you speak from covenant consciousness, Your words carry the weight of divine promise behind them, creating echoes in the spiritual realm that must manifest as tangible abundance in your physical experience. Now, I want to show you exactly how to speak from this place of covenant authority, using the specific declarations that align your voice with divine promise and accelerate the manifestation of your inheritance in ways that will astound you. Write in the comments, "I claim my covenant," if you're ready to stop seeking wealth as if it's a privilege you must earn and start commanding it as the divine inheritance that's already been promised to you. Speaking from covenant authority leads us to one of Florence Scovel Shinn's most transformative teachings, the crucial distinction between asking as a beggar and decreeing as a divine heir. When you ask for wealth, you're unconsciously implying separation from your supply, positioning yourself as someone outside looking in, hoping that abundance might be granted to you if you're fortunate enough or worthy enough. But when you decree prosperity, you're acknowledging your oneness with infinite resources, speaking from the understanding that what you're claiming already belongs to you. This shift in approach changes absolutely everything, because it transforms the entire energetic foundation of your relationship with money. Behind the scenes of this transformation lies a profound understanding that begging creates distance, while decreeing creates connection. The impact of this revelation extends far beyond mere word choice. It represents a fundamental change in your spiritual identity and your understanding of how abundance flows into human experience. The journey deepens as you begin to comprehend that true prosperity isn't subject to the whims of chance, economic fluctuations, or lucky breaks. What Florence discovered is that prosperity represents the outworking of divine law that operates with the same natural consistency as gravity itself. The same universal forces that maintain planetary orbits in perfect mathematical precision govern your financial supply with equal reliability and exactness. This mindset shift moves you from seeing wealth as something unpredictable to understanding it as something governed by laws that never vary, never fail, and never make exceptions. When you align your speech with these spiritual laws through proper decreeing, abundance flows to you with the same inevitability that objects fall toward earth when released. The decisions you make about how to engage with these laws determine whether you experience their beneficial effects or unknowingly work against them. The hidden truth that emerges here is that you're not hoping for miracles when you decree abundance. You're activating natural law. Just as an apple doesn't hope to fall from a tree, but simply obeys gravitational law, your prosperity doesn't depend on luck, but flows naturally when you align your declarations with the spiritual laws that govern supply. The revelations continue to unfold as you realize that every wealthy person, whether they understand it consciously or not, has learned to work with these laws rather than against them. The transformation becomes complete when you stop treating wealth as an exception to natural order and start recognizing it as the inevitable result of properly applied spiritual principles. Your voice becomes the instrument through which you consciously engage these laws, speaking decrees that must be fulfilled, not because you're special, but because spiritual law is absolutely reliable. Now I want to demonstrate exactly how to engage these natural laws through your speech, showing you the specific decrees that align perfectly with spiritual law and create the conditions for abundance to flow with mathematical certainty. Write in the comments, "I work with divine law," if you're ready to stop hoping for financial breakthroughs and start engaging the natural laws that govern prosperity with the same confidence you have in gravity. Working with divine law opens your understanding to a magnificent vision that Florence Scovel Shinn used to help people grasp the unlimited nature of their supply. Picture an inexhaustible river flowing directly from heaven's throne, its waters pure with divine substance, branching into countless streams of opportunity and wealth channels that reach every corner of earthly experience. This river represents something far more powerful than any earthly resource, because it cannot run dry, cannot be blocked by economic conditions, and cannot be stolen by circumstances beyond your control. The transformation in your financial life begins when you understand that this river responds specifically to your faith-filled declarations. Every time you speak with genuine conviction about your abundance, you're opening the channels that allow this divine flow to pour into your experience. Behind the scenes of every financial miracle lies this simple truth. Someone aligned their speech with the flow of this eternal river, and abundance followed with mathematical precision. This journey into divine supply reveals a hidden truth that revolutionizes everything you've been taught about creating wealth. In spiritual law, prosperity isn't earned through endless toil, accumulated through years of sacrifice, or achieved by climbing some invisible ladder of worthiness. Instead, wealth is claimed through recognition of what already exists and spoken declaration of your divine inheritance. The decisions you make about how to engage with this truth determine whether you remain disconnected from your supply or step into the flow of unlimited provision. The impact of this revelation becomes profound. When you realize that you're not asking heaven for blessings when you make declarations about your abundance, you're actually enforcing divine law, compelling the very forces of creation to fulfill decrees that align with eternal truth. This mindset shift moves you from the position of a hopeful petitioner to the role of a lawful enforcer, speaking with the authority of someone who knows their rightful inheritance. The revelations deepen as you understand that this divine river has been flowing toward you your entire life, waiting only for you to open the channels through proper declaration. Your voice becomes the key that unlocks floodgates of supply that have been held back not by divine reluctance, but by your own unconscious resistance expressed through words of limitation and lack. Behind the scenes of every financial breakthrough lies someone who discovered how to speak in alignment with this eternal flow, someone who stopped working against the current and learned to move with the divine tide of abundance that seeks expression through human experience. Now, I want to show you the exact words that open these channels most powerfully, the specific declarations that align your voice with the flow of divine supply and create an unstoppable current of prosperity in your life. Write in the comments, "I open my channels," if you're ready to stop trying to earn abundance through struggle and start claiming it through the divine authority that flows through your spoken word. Opening your channels to divine supply immediately confronts you with perhaps the most destructive force working against your prosperity, an ancient lie about scarcity that has been passed down through generations like a poisonous inheritance. This belief in limitation has strangled abundance for countless people, convincing them that supply is finite, opportunities are rare, and wealth naturally belongs to others, while shortage is their destined portion. The impact of this lie goes far deeper than surface-level thinking. It creates an entire worldview that must be completely uprooted and replaced with truth before authentic transformation can occur. Behind the scenes of this deception lies one of the most profound revelations available to human consciousness. The evidence for infinite supply is literally everywhere you look, yet most people have been trained to see scarcity instead of abundance. The journey toward prosperity begins when you open your eyes to what creation itself demonstrates about the nature of divine supply. Consider the infinite stars scattered across galaxies beyond number, the countless grains of sand on every beach, the billions of leaves that grow effortlessly on forest trees without anyone managing their production. The transformation happens when you realize that the universe operates exclusively on overflow principles, never shortage. Divine creation doesn't ration, limit, or withhold. It pours forth abundance with such generosity that human minds struggle to comprehend its scope. The hidden truth that changes everything is understanding that lack exists only in human consciousness, not in divine reality. When you observe nature, you see constant multiplication, endless renewal, and supply that regenerates itself without effort or strain. This mindset shift requires you to make a fundamental decision about which evidence you'll accept as true: the lie of scarcity that's been programmed into human thinking, or the demonstration of abundance that surrounds you every moment of every day. The revelations continue to unfold as you realize that if divine mind had any intention of limiting supply, it would be reflected in creation itself. Yet everywhere you look, you see overflow, excess, and more than enough. The decisions you make about accepting this truth versus clinging to inherited beliefs about limitation will determine whether you can successfully access the divine channels of supply. You cannot simultaneously believe in scarcity and expect to manifest abundance, because your words will always reflect your deepest convictions about the nature of supply itself. Now, I want to show you exactly how to complete this uprooting process, how to systematically remove every trace of scarcity consciousness from your speech patterns and replace them with declarations that align perfectly with the abundance principles demonstrated throughout creation. Write in the comments, "I see abundance everywhere," if you're ready to reject the lie of scarcity that's been limiting your prosperity and embrace the truth of infinite supply that creation demonstrates all around you. Recognizing abundance everywhere leads to an even more powerful understanding of how divine supply actually operates in your life. Consider the sun, which pours forth light and warmth continuously, freely, generously, without ever diminishing its own radiance or calculating the cost of its giving. This celestial body has been shining for billions of years, supporting all life on Earth, yet never grows weaker, never runs out of energy, never withholds its gifts because someone might not deserve them. This is the perfect metaphor for how divine wealth flows in the spiritual realm, endlessly, without depletion, without conditions. The transformation in your financial consciousness happens when you grasp that when you experience lack, you haven't encountered a limitation in divine supply itself. Instead, you've simply turned away from the eternal flow, like someone stepping into shadows while the sun continues shining brightly overhead. Behind the scenes of every financial struggle lies this misunderstanding. People believe the supply has stopped flowing when actually they've unconsciously positioned themselves outside the stream of abundance through their speech patterns and thought habits. This journey toward prosperity becomes intensely practical when you understand how changing your language literally restructures your reality. Florence Scovel Shinn documented countless examples of this principle in action, but one story particularly demonstrates the power of language transformation. A woman who had experienced constant financial struggle for years lived trapped in what seemed like an endless cycle of barely making ends meet, always behind on bills, always worried about money. The impact of her transformation began the moment she made a simple but profound decision about her daily speech. Instead of her habitual phrase, "I can't afford this," which she had spoken hundreds of times throughout her life, she began declaring, "God is my unfailing supply," whenever financial concerns arose. This wasn't positive thinking or mental gymnastics. It was a complete restructuring of her relationship with abundance through the power of deliberate declaration. The revelations unfolded quickly as her new speech patterns began creating different vibrations in the invisible realm. Within months, unexpected income sources appeared, long overdue payments arrived, opportunities opened that had been invisible before, and her entire financial landscape shifted from struggle to overflow. The decisions she made about which words to speak literally rewrote her financial destiny, proving that language is far more than communication. It's creation itself. The hidden truth this demonstrates is that your current financial circumstances aren't permanent realities, but temporary reflections of your dominant speech patterns. Just as the sun never stops shining, even when clouds temporarily block its light, divine supply never stops flowing, even when lack language temporarily blocks your access to abundance. Now I want to show you exactly which phrases are blocking your financial flow, and the specific words that will immediately begin redirecting divine supply into your experience with the same reliability that turning toward the sun brings warmth to your face. Write in the comments, "I turn toward abundance." If you're ready to stop speaking words that position you in the shadows of lack and start using language that aligns you directly with the endless flow of divine supply. Turning toward abundance through deliberate language choices opens your consciousness to one of the most powerful visualizations Florence Scovel Shinn ever shared with her students. Imagine heaven not as some distant, ethereal realm, but as a magnificent vault overflowing with every form of supply you could ever need. Money in unlimited amounts, opportunities perfectly timed for your success, connections that elevate your life, ideas that generate wealth effortlessly. This isn't fantasy or wishful thinking. It's a spiritual reality that exists right now, prepared specifically for you, sealed only by unspoken words of command. The transformation happens when you understand that your declarations function as golden keys, each one specifically designed to unlock different chambers within this divine treasury. Behind the scenes of every financial breakthrough lies someone who discovered how to use their voice as the master key that releases wealth from the invisible realm into tangible experience. The impact of this revelation changes everything because it positions you as the one holding the keys rather than the one hoping someone else might open doors for you. This journey into spiritual authority reaches its culmination when you encounter the specific sentence that Florence discovered. Carries maximum power to unlock heaven's vault. After working with countless individuals who transformed from poverty to prosperity, she identified the exact words that carry the vibration of absolute certainty, compelling universal forces to bend in obedience to faith-filled speech. The sentence that creates millionaires is deceptively simple yet spiritually profound. What God has done for others, He now does for me and more. The hidden truth within this declaration is that it acknowledges divine precedent while claiming personal inheritance. When you speak these words with genuine conviction, you're not asking for something unprecedented or hoping for special treatment. You're claiming what spiritual law has already demonstrated is possible, while declaring that the same divine power operating in others' lives is now operating in yours with even greater abundance. The revelations deepen as you realize this sentence works because it removes the element of doubt from your declarations. You're not wondering if prosperity is possible. You're pointing to evidence that it already exists and claiming your portion of what has been proven available. The decisions you make about speaking this sentence with unwavering faith versus casual hope determine whether you access its full power or merely experience its surface effects. The mindset shift required here moves you from seeing yourself as separate from those who prosper to recognizing yourself as equally entitled to divine abundance. When you declare, "What God has done for others, He now does for me and more," you're establishing spiritual equality with everyone who has ever experienced prosperity. Now, I want to show you exactly how to speak this millionaire sentence with the specific tone and conviction that activates its maximum power and begins immediately restructuring your financial reality. Write in the comments, "I claim my more," if you're ready to use this golden key declaration and unlock the chambers of abundance that heaven has prepared specifically for your prosperity. Speaking the millionaire sentence with conviction opens the door to even more powerful declarations that work systematically to transform your entire financial reality. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that certain affirmations carry such spiritual authority that when spoken daily with unwavering faith, they literally restructure the invisible forces governing your supply. The transformation begins when you speak with absolute certainty. My supply is endless, inexhaustible, and immediate. These aren't mere words of hope, but commands that penetrate the spiritual realm and establish new patterns in divine law. Behind the scenes of this declaration lies a profound understanding that your supply doesn't depend on external conditions, economic fluctuations, or human approval. When you declare your supply is endless, you're aligning with the infinite nature of divine provision itself. When you call it inexhaustible, you're establishing that no circumstance can deplete what flows from an eternal source. When you affirm it as immediate, you're commanding speed, refusing to accept delay as normal or necessary. The journey deepens as you add the second pillar of prosperity consciousness. God is my unfailing supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly under grace in perfect ways. This declaration works because it combines divine source with specific manifestation, spiritual law with material demonstration. The impact of speaking these words consistently creates what Florence called spiritual momentum, an invisible force that accelerates the manifestation of abundance in your experience. The revelations continue as you discover the secret that multiplies the power of every declaration. gratitude spoken as if you've already received what you're claiming. This isn't gratitude for what you currently see, but thanksgiving for what spiritual law has already established in the invisible realm. When you add gratitude to your declarations, you're signaling to the universe that you've moved beyond hoping and entered the realm of knowing. The transformation that occurs through grateful declaration is profound because it shifts your entire energetic frequency from the vibration of need to the vibration of fulfillment. Behind the scenes of this shift, spiritual law responds not to your current circumstances, but to the consciousness you're expressing through your words. Gratitude seals your declarations in what Florence called faith substance, the invisible material from which all physical manifestations emerge. The hidden truth that changes everything is understanding that when you speak gratitude for abundance not yet visible, you're not being delusional or practicing empty positive thinking. You're actually operating according to spiritual law, which recognizes that receiving always precedes appearing in the realm of divine supply. The decisions you make about expressing genuine thanksgiving for your declared prosperity determine how quickly those declarations materialize in your physical experience. Now, I want to show you exactly how to combine these powerful declarations with gratitude in a way that creates an unstoppable momentum toward financial transformation that accelerates with each passing day. Write in the comments, "I am grateful for my abundance," if you're ready to speak these life-changing declarations with the gratitude that seals them in spiritual law and guarantees their manifestation. Combining declarations with gratitude creates the perfect foundation for understanding one of the most compelling testimonies from Florence Scovel Shinn's work, the story of a woman who literally transformed from destitute poverty to overflowing prosperity through nothing more than consistent, faithful speech. This woman came to Florence in desperation, having lost everything she owned, facing eviction with no visible means of support, and no prospects on the horizon. Yet within months of learning to speak Florence's Millionaire sentence daily, her entire reality had restructured itself around abundance. The transformation didn't happen through desperate effort, clever schemes, or human cunning. Behind the scenes of her breakthrough was a simple but profound commitment to declaring, "God is my unfailing supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly under grace in perfect ways," every morning and evening with unwavering faith. The impact of this consistent practice created what Florence called spiritual momentum that built invisible bridges between her current circumstances and her desired prosperity. This journey demonstrates that wealth responds not to frantic activity, but to persistent, faithful speech aligned with divine law. The woman's financial situation began shifting in ways that defied logical explanation. Unexpected inheritances appeared. Forgotten investments surfaced with substantial returns. Business opportunities materialized from seemingly nowhere. The decisions she made to trust the power of her spoken word over the evidence of her temporary circumstances created pathways for abundance that her human mind could never have engineered. The revelations deepen as you understand that her success wasn't unique or special. It was the natural result of engaging spiritual law through consistent declaration. This leads us to another powerful tool that Florence taught for accelerating: manifestation. Visualization as spiritual architecture. What most people dismiss as mere daydreaming is actually the process of constructing reality in the invisible realm before it appears in the visible world. When you visualize yourself receiving abundance with clarity and emotion, you're not engaging in wishful thinking, but participating in spiritual construction. The hidden truth is that every physical manifestation begins as a blueprint in the invisible realm, and your mental imagery provides the detailed plans that divine law follows to create your experience. The mindset shift required here moves you from seeing imagination as escapism to understanding it as conscious creation of the blueprint for your future prosperity. Now, I want to show you exactly how to engage in this spiritual architecture process, creating such vivid and detailed mental blueprints of your abundance that the physical manifestation becomes inevitable. Write in the comments, "I build my prosperity if..." You're ready to use visualization as spiritual architecture and begin constructing the invisible foundation for wealth that must manifest in your physical experience. Building your prosperity through spiritual architecture leads to perhaps the most crucial revelation in this entire teaching: the absolute necessity of complete identity transformation before wealth can manifest permanently in your outer experience. You simply cannot speak words of abundance while secretly identifying yourself as someone who is poor, limited, or unworthy of prosperity. The transformation that creates lasting wealth requires speaking, thinking, and ultimately becoming a millionaire in consciousness before the external world can reflect that inner reality. Behind the scenes of every sustained financial breakthrough lies this fundamental shift in self-perception. The impact of this revelation means you must make a conscious decision to inhabit wealth consciousness completely, not just during your declaration times, but throughout every moment of your day. When someone asks about your finances, you speak from your prosperous identity rather than your current circumstances. When you make purchasing decisions, you consult your abundance consciousness rather than your temporary bank balance. This journey demands what Florence called living from the end, operating as if the wealth you're declaring has already manifested while the physical evidence is still catching up to your spiritual reality. The hidden truth that emerges here is that your outer world will never exceed the limitations of your inner identity. If you think of yourself as someone who struggles with money you will have, regardless of how many affirmations you speak. The transformation becomes complete when you commit to the practice that seals everything we've discovered into permanent change. Speaking the millionaire's sentence every single day for 40 days without interruption. This isn't arbitrary timing, but represents the period required to completely reprogram your subconscious mind and establish new neural pathways that support wealth consciousness rather than lack consciousness. The revelations culminate as you understand that consistent declaration over 40 days activates spiritual law with such force that abundance begins flowing to you through what Florence called vibrational agreement. Every day you speak the words, you're strengthening the magnetic pull between your consciousness and your prosperity until manifestation becomes not just possible, but inevitable. The decisions you make about committing to this 40-day journey versus dabbling casually with these principles will determine whether you experience temporary improvement or permanent transformation. This mindset shift requires understanding that you're not just changing your words for 40 days. You're fundamentally rewiring your relationship with abundance, restructuring your entire financial identity, and establishing yourself as someone to whom wealth flows naturally and consistently. Now, I want to reveal the exact structure for this 40-day transformation process and show you how to maintain the intensity of conviction that makes every declaration a powerful command rather than a hopeful wish. Write in the comments, "I commit to 40 days," if you're ready to make the complete identity transformation from lack consciousness to wealth consciousness through consistent, daily declaration. Committing to this 40-day transformation represents more than just a practice. It's your declaration that you're ready to step into the millionaire consciousness that has been waiting for you to claim it. As we reach the end of this journey together, I want you to understand that everything we've explored today isn't theory or inspiration, but practical spiritual law that works with mathematical precision when applied consistently. If you've made it this far, there's something significant stirring within your spirit. You're not here by accident. The fact that you've absorbed these teachings about the power of spoken words, divine inheritance, and wealth consciousness tells me you're ready for the transformation that awaits you. This content finds its way to people exactly when they're prepared to use it. The revelations we've shared today are just the beginning of what's available when you understand how spiritual law governs prosperity. If you found value in these teachings about Florence Scovel Shinn's Millionaire sentence and the power of decree, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. There's so much more we can explore together about the intersection of spirituality and abundance, and I want to make sure you don't miss any of the insights that could change your financial reality. Hit that like button if you felt the connection we created through these powerful truths. When you like this video, you're not just supporting the content. You're affirming your own commitment to embracing these principles in your life. And leave me a comment saying, "This message was meant for me, so I know you stayed until the very end, and you're serious about implementing what you've learned." I read every comment, and there's something special about connecting with people who are genuinely ready to transform their relationship with money. Before you go, there's a video right here that complements this topic perfectly, diving even deeper into the practical application of spiritual principles for creating wealth. Click and continue with me over there, because the next piece of this puzzle is waiting for you.